Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Alton West. Today I'm going to have a guest on from the Troup County Archives, so stay tuned for that interview coming up in just a moment.
I'm LaGrange Mayor Jim Thornton.
And I'm Patrick Cruz, Chairman of the Troup County Board of Commissioners, and we've got a question for you.
Have you ever littered?
No. Sometimes. I see my dad litter. It's something which you just throw on the floor and you don't, you just throw things on the floor and when you don't need to. I just don't like putting in the trash can sometimes, but sometimes I do put them in the trash can. Don't do that. Just a piece of trash on our yard, and I don't like people that litter. He just threw the gun out the window. Cheap, beautiful. If you are littering people, stop littering right now. Don't litter. And you're a grown-up, you should know that. Cheap, troop, beautiful.
Littering in Troup County is not a small problem. It's a big one, and we need everyone to do their part.
The City of LaGrange, along with Troup County and the cities of Hogansville and West Point, want to clean up our community.
So please don't trash Troup.
Let's pick it up. Working together, we can keep Troup County a beautiful place to live.
Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am being by the Executive Director from the Troup County Archives, Shannon Johnson. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to sit down with you, Shannon, and talk a little bit about some things here, historical things here in our community that a lot of the viewing public may not necessarily know about, or just perhaps have gone by the building and not paid a lot of attention to it. And I know that you are there each and every day and provide a very important service to our community. And we're going to talk about that momentarily. But Shannon, tell us just a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, first of all.
Okay, I'm Shannon Johnson. I consider myself a recent transplant to the area. My dad is a minister, so we've lived all over Alabama and Georgia.
Okay.
I have a master's in library and information science from the University of Alabama, and started at the archives as an intern and have worked my way up after getting my master's.
Okay.
So I have since married a local fellow, though, so I am tied to LaGrange.
Tied to LaGrange,
yes.
And you know, there's another gentleman down there with the last name of Johnson.
Yes.
I don't know if there's any relation.
It is. He is my father-in-law.
Okay. You know, Clark was one of my students, one of my teachers
yes.
in high school. Absolutely. Clark's a very fine young man and very smart individual
yes.
as well.
We were fortunate to have him.
Absolutely. Yes. Now, Shannon, you know, we're talking about the Troup County Archives and the things that you all do. We want to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. But the building itself has been around, like a lot of the buildings in the downtown area, for a very long time.
For 100 years.
100 years.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that for us, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, it was built in 1917. LaGrange National Bank built it. They broke ground on May the 14th, 1917. Fuller Calloway was the president at that time. They finish up, they complete construction right as the year is ending, 1917. So they have a grand opening on January the 1st of 1918.
Okay.
So the building has been occupied for 100 years this year.
100 years.
It served as a bank for a number of years. Hodgson Brothers of New York designed it. And I don't want to mess up, so I have a bit of a cheat sheet.
That's okay.
It cost about $70,000 to build, which $70,000, which is just mind-boggling to me that you could build such a lovely building of Indiana limestone out of $70,000.
That's right.
It boasted some of the most modern. Had a fireproof and burglar-proof vault, and it also had ladies' restrooms, which were quite the feature listed in the grand opening comments.
Okay.
So,
All right.
the bank the building served as a bank until 1970 when they built the current Bank of America building next door. And the bank moved across the street. And from 1970 to the present, it served as several different things. Goodwill Industries were there, some state health offices, some different businesses. But then in 1981, the Callaway Foundation purchased it and donated it to Troup County Historical Society for us to use as an archives.
Oh, okay. So a bit of I guess, transitional as far as the buildings are concerned, a bank, and I heard you say that the society was there.
The Troup County Historical Society moves in 1981.
Oh, okay.
The Callaway Foundation, as generous as they are, bought it and donates it to the Historical Society, and also donated the funds to renovate it.
Oh, okay.
In 1981.
Yeah, it's a pretty massive building that on the corner there, and it's 3 floors if I understand correctly, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the programs that you guys have. Yeah, in 1970, when it was transferred over, I guess, to the Historical Society, did it have the elevators and all those things?
It did. Okay. It did. Okay. Some of the even early in 1918, some of the interesting things that are listed in the newspaper, there was a big announcement made in the newspaper, of course. It had electric lighting, it had steam appliances for heat, that kind of thing. So even when it was first built, it was state of the art.
Okay.
And then, of course, it experienced renovations throughout those 100 years. In 1981, like I said, Callaway Foundation donates enough money to cover a renovation to turn it into, at that time, the first floor was a library. Looked more like a library. It was a research facility. So the archives was able to have researchers, genealogical researchers, that type thing, come in and sit. And then in 2004, it underwent, fundraising began in 2004, and the renovation for the museum began in 2007. And of course, by 2008, the museum was finished, and it looks like what it looks today.
Okay.
So the first floor is a history museum, and then the second floor is the genealogical library.
Oh, okay. And the building being 100 years of age, it is a historical landmark.
It is.
How, and so that people understand, because it is in the historic district, our downtown LaGrange area. It is designated as a historic location on the national or
it is not. It is not. But the district is, and of course it's one of the buildings that helps to make the district keep that designation.
That's right. Okay. Talk about, if you don't mind, how a building can get on the National Registry, if you don't mind.
It's actually a pretty detailed process. It's a very lengthy application. The buildings can't have undergone a great deal of work. They have to be very similar to what they were originally. Okay. So that's part of why there are so few, and so few here in LaGrange. Bellevue is the only one that, and it's actually a national historic landmark.
Okay. Oh, okay. But now let's say someone owns a piece of property and they wanted to have it listed like Bellevue, which has been on the National Registry, I'm sure, for a number of years.
It has, since the 70s.
Since the 70s. So if someone owns some historic piece of property, can they individually register it on the national? It's
quite the process. Like I said, it requires a great deal of research.
Okay.
And those individuals would be more than welcome to come in, and we can certainly help research.
Okay.
And direct them towards the correct agencies.
Okay.
It is a federal designation, so it carries with it federal paperwork.
Those federal regulations.
Right. So it is tedious and time consuming, but sometimes well worth the effort.
Okay. So. All right. And you know, you're talking about renovations. The exterior of the buildings, I know a lot of times cannot undergo a lot of the exterior changes that's going to take away from the architectural features. So the renovations that have taken place there at the building are mainly interior.
Okay. Yes.
Has there been anything done over the years to the exterior that you're aware of?
Well, there was an addition. The back portion of our building was an addition. It was built in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
And it looks a little bit different. It's just regular old painted brick instead of the Indiana limestone like the rest of the building. Since I have been director, we have had the building cleaned, but other than that, there hasn't been a great deal. Signs have been put up, that kind of thing, but of significance, there has not been a great deal of change to the exterior of the building.
Okay, all right. And then the interior, as we talked about, have undergone some changes over the years to give us the beautiful building that we have there now. And I know that you and others take great pride in, because I've come into the location on a number of occasions to view some of the exhibits or just to visit, and it's always seems to be so nice and
well, thank you.
Kind of an invite. It almost gives you that library feeling, you know, when you're on that first floor, kind of the quiet, the hush, the to be able to browse around and things of that nature. I'm going to just talk about, I know that you all have various exhibits set up. Talk a little bit about one of the exhibits that you all have set up and displayed now.
Well, we have 2 rotating galleries and 1 permanent gallery. The permanent gallery is the history of Troup County. It starts with the earliest inhabitants, so the Woodland and then the Creek Indians.
Okay.
And it kind of works all the way through Troup County history. It goes through our involvement in the Civil War and World War I and World War II, and then it ends up with stuff like fiber optic cable. So it goes all the way through our history, even modern history. The 2 rotating galleries change out fairly regularly. We have one that changes out probably every 6 months, give or take. And then another one that we change out like every 8 weeks or 9 weeks.
Okay.
It's currently featuring an exhibit on, we did it for Women's History Month and Black History Month, so it's featuring an exhibit on black women in medicine in Troup County. Okay. So some of our there were midwives that were born slaves and then end up being nurses, and it comes all the way through integration and takes a look at some of the ladies that are still living that served as early nurses.
Oh my, okay. So are they local to the Troup County area?
They are. That is one thing that we always try to do. Is our mission is to take a look at the Troup County history and West Georgia history. So we are specific to this area.
Okay.
So the other rotating gallery right now is an exhibit that's featuring our building in 1918.
Okay.
It's called 1918 LaGrange Before the Roar. 1918 was a pretty big year. It's the end of World War I. The flu epidemic, which actually killed more people in America than World War I did. It's right before women receive suffrage, so there's all kinds of things going on that we've highlighted in an exhibit. That's going to kind of evolve over the next few months. We're going to highlight the Roaring 20s after this, and specifically here in LaGrange. So by the end of May, the beginning of June, that exhibit will kind of, like I said, evolve a little bit, so it'll change a little bit.
Okay, well, very good. A lot of great things going on down in the building there. And I wanted to ask, because I know that with the building being 100 years of age, like anything, it needs a little bit of maintenance.
It does.
It needs some maintenance. What is on the horizon for the building itself, or as far as renovations are concerned, if there are any?
Any renovations at this point will be purely structural. Okay. So it is 100 years old, and as anything that's 100 years old, it needs upkeep.
That's right.
So. We have already contacted some structural engineers to take a look at what needs to be done over the coming years, to maintain it, to continue, so that hopefully it will be on that corner for another 100
That's right.
years.
Absolutely. Well, Shannon, I want to take a quick commercial break. I want to come back and just kind of dig a little bit more into some of these exhibits that you just mentioned a moment ago, and also want to ask some questions about archivists and things of that nature, because it helps our general public to understand what it is that you all do to help present and to display the exhibits that we have an opportunity to go down and see. So I'm going to take a quick short break and come back and talk more with you if you don't mind, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for more City Week in just a moment.
Nobody wants to be stopped by a law enforcement officer.
Everyone wants to feel safe.
So we've trained our officers to first listen and then explain.
We ask if you have contact with one of our officers, you listen, give him an opportunity to explain, comply with his requests, and if there's a problem, contact us so that we can investigate your complaint.
Listen, explain, comply, then complain.
Our safety and yours matters.
Welcome back, City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am being joined by the Executive Director for the Troup County Archives, Shannon Johnson. Shannon, we left off a moment ago talking about the building and the age of it, and you said you were soliciting some structural engineers to come and look at it, to maybe do some renovations to the building itself. Let me just ask, and I know with renovations and changes, it also comes funding needs and issues. If there was someone that was watching today that say, well, you know what, I want to kind of help with that project, how can they get involved?
Call us. We welcome new members.
Okay.
We would love to have new members. Membership starts as low as $25, and it does have its benefits. You receive a subscription to our newsletter,
okay,
which is quarterly. We offer discounts to our programs to members, and we also offer discounts in the gift shop. But most importantly, they receive invitations to our program, so it's a good way to find out about what we're doing.
Oh, okay. And that's $25 for the year?
Lowest membership is $25, yes, sir, for a year.
Okay.
And we're not going to turn away money, so you can donate whatever you'd like.
Okay.
We have memberships from $25 all the way up to tens of thousands.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. And you talk about your programs. I know I attended the annual banquet a year or so ago where you all featured the Horace King, and I was so enlightened by the information and stuff that I did not know about Horace King and how much he contributed to the City of LaGrange, especially the East Court Square there. All of the buildings, I understand, were built by him, as well as some buildings on the college campus and throughout the City of LaGrange. And it's that type of programming that you all are able to provide to the residents of LaGrange. And I'm sorry to say, I'm just kind of learning that. I'm sure some of your members already knew that.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. Members now, they come, they get the information that you all submit to them. Do they meet on a regular basis, or what else goes along?
We have a board that meets. The board represents the membership. The biggest benefit of being a member is we call it Clio Notes.
Okay.
It's, like I said, it's a quarterly newsletter. It gives you an idea of what we're doing. We have research topics that are listed. And I think it's a lovely newsletter. It's an enjoyable read. But then I'm also the editor, so we are a small staff, and we all wear many hats. So, but I do think it's a nicely done newsletter and worthwhile.
And I must say, I get it down at the office, and I enjoyed looking at it as well, just to be quite honest with you, Shannon. And talking about that, wearing many hats, you have a degree in library science from the University of Alabama. Let's just talk a little bit about someone that might be interested in doing what you do, and let's help them understand what an archivist is and stuff like that, if you don't mind.
Okay. It's probably easiest for me to start with what an archives is.
Okay.
Archives are, the easiest way to explain it is that we are a library for really old stuff.
Okay.
So where a public library would have a copy of a book, we have the only book available. They might have a copy of a pamphlet. We have the original pamphlet.
Okay.
So the Troup County Historical Society also contracts with the city, the county, and the school board to hold all of the government documents that are non-current.
Okay.
So when the city or the county finishes with a record, a document, a court record, school transcripts, marriage applications, that kind of thing, they send them to us, and we keep them.
Okay.
Eventually those become historical records. We also have a number of historical records. We keep club minutes, garden clubs, Lions Club, Rotary, that kind of thing. But then we also have records from when the Olympics came through. All kinds of things. So general donations are welcome as well. We have a number of really interesting artifacts that have been donated, but that is what an archives is. We keep the historical documents.
Okay.
So an archivist is really just a librarian for old stuff.
Oh, so, okay.
We process it, we catalog it, and make sure that it's researchable, so that someone that wanted to, say, write a book on the Olympics coming through would have what they needed to be able to go through it.
Oh, okay. So that's why I had that library feeling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They're very similar.
Absolutely. All right. And again, You guys do a wonderful job down there. And you were talking a moment ago, Shannon, about some of the various exhibits that were going to be taking place. And the Roaring Twenties was one that you talked about. You also talked about going back as far as the Woodland Indian Creeks and things of that nature. I want to just go and pull out a little snippet. The Roaring Twenties. What were the Roaring Twenties like here in LaGrange?
It wasn't much different than the teens. The Prohibition, of course, everybody thinks the Roaring Twenties are you immediately think of flappers and speakeasies and mafia, that kind of thing. And that was really more in the cities. In rural Georgia, it wasn't much different than it had been previously. Georgia had been under pretty strict alcohol prohibition for several years, probably a couple of decades by that point. So it doesn't change drastically. Women do get the vote. They're able to vote for presidential elections at that point. But it doesn't change a great deal. We are going to highlight the decade over the coming months. It's still very interesting. And to understand what's going on here in Troup County and in LaGrange, you kind of have to take a look at what's going on everywhere else. So several of our programs through the coming months will still highlight the Roaring Twenties and what you think of with the flappers and jazz and the Charleston dance, that kind of thing.
Well, very good. We'll be happy to see that definitely in display down there. And you guys also have classes for individuals that want to come in. Talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
We are happy to meet with someone that wants to start searching for their genealogy through their family history. We have done some workshops in the past, and we'll do other workshops, photograph workshops, preservation workshops, how to maintain your family's just your personal photographs, that kind of thing. And they don't have to necessarily be old. So sometimes, you know, it doesn't all have to be old. So and we can help you maintain those and make sure that your great-grandchildren can see them, that kind of thing. We do walking tours regularly, but some of the big programs that are coming, we're going to introduce a summer camp this summer for upper elementary and middle school students. It too will be kind of themed around the Roaring Twenties. The banquets theme this year will be around the Roaring Twenties. And then in the fall, we're also going to do some historical happy hours. So we hope to bring in a mixologist to serve some of the 1920 cocktails.
The mixologist,
yes.
Right.
So we believe that history is only as good as it is known. So if the community is not aware of what their history is, then it's not known. So we are doing our best to make it interesting and fun so that more members of the community can come be a part.
Well, very good. You know, talking about that, Shannon, the question popped in my mind about like a lot of the neighborhoods. You had like the Calumet community, you know, now you have the Alton West community, you got the Hillside community. You were talking about helping individuals to do their genealogy. Do you all help residents in those various communities to kind of help define the lines?
Yes, and we worked with the gentleman that worked with Calumet specifically. We have helped to conduct research to determine what boundaries there were and that sort of thing. All
right. Because I know that we see that down at the city, we see a lot of them coming back, you know, where the people are really wanting to bring back the communities and, you know, make it a better life there for everyone in those communities. And you know, identification is important to them, to know where those lines, you know, started and ended and things of that nature. Very good. Some upcoming summer camps. Talk a little bit about that as we get ready to close out. And who is it for? What student age range or adults?
It's students, upper elementary school and middle school. It'll be 1 week in the mornings. We'll do it in our 136 Main Street, our building. They are just being planned, so I don't have a ton of details, but we will be featuring, like I said, it'll be themed around the Roaring Twenties. So they will learn about all of the stuff that's going on, what leads up to the Roaring Twenties. Like I mentioned earlier, the end of World War I is 1918. The flu epidemic is 1918. Several other things politically go on that create what we know as the Roaring Twenties.
Okay.
So we'll study the art and we'll study the music of that time period, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So I think it'll be a lot of fun for the kids.
Absolutely.
So,
will there be a cost for the students that will
there
attend?
will. It'll be minimal though.
Minimal cost to the
Yeah.
students. Okay. And if they want to get more information, do you have a
Give us
contact?
a call.
Okay. Go ahead and give them your contact number.
It's 706-884-1828.
Okay. All right. Very good. You know, there's so many great things going on down and around at the Troup County Archives. And Shannon, you and the staff, you know, every time I come in, it's very pleasant, that library setting again. And I just hope that our public comes out, because one of the things that we didn't mention about the exhibits, they're all free to the public.
They are. They
Okay,
are.
so definitely we want to come out and support, but I'm sure you all will graciously accept
Absolutely.
donations, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we can.
But it's open to everybody. If that request for donations is not meant to keep someone from coming, we welcome everyone that wants to come in.
Okay, very good. Well, Shannon, it's been a pleasure sitting down with you and talking about the building itself, the Troup County Archives building on the corner of Main and Broome Street,
Yes.
that celebrated its 100 years of being in existence, and we definitely want the public to come out and help Shannon and the rest of them try to make sure that building's around for another 100 years,
Yes.
correct, Shannon?
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Shannon, I want to thank you for coming on the show today, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for more City Week in just a moment.
I'm LaGrange Mayor Jim Thornton.
And I'm Patrick Cruz, Chairman of the Troup County Board of Commissioners, and we've got a question for you.
Have you ever littered?
No. 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 Sometimes. I see my dad litter. It's something what you just throw on the floor, and you just throw things on the floor, and when you don't need to. I just don't like putting in the trash can sometimes, but sometimes I do put them in the trash can. Don't do that. Just a piece of trash on our yard, and I don't like people that litter. He just threw the gun out the window. Just beautiful. If you are littering people, stop littering right now. Don't litter. And you're a grown-up, you should know that. Keep Troup beautiful.
Littering in Troup County is not a small problem. It's a big one, and we need everyone to do their part.
The City of LaGrange, along with Troup County and the cities of Hogansville and West Point, want to clean up our community.
So please don't trash Troup.
Let's pick it up. Working together, we can keep Troup County a beautiful place to live.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us City Week this week. My guests have been from the Troup County Archives, the Executive Director, Shannon Johnson, as she talked about the celebration of the 100th year of the building being in existence there on Broome and Main Street. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see some great exhibits, go by and pay them a visit. I hope that you have enjoyed this interview, and as always, I want to invite you back for more of City Week.
Why United Way? Because in some way, everyone in our community is touched by your donation to United Way of West Georgia. Yes, everyone. United Way helps 25 local agencies touch thousands of lives, even yours. To cause so many good things to happen, these organizations must have volunteers. Fortunately, more than 2,300 local volunteers are now giving time to the 25 local organizations that United Way of West Georgia helps support. Yes, more than 2,300 volunteers. But more are needed. Please volunteer your time, as well as your financial support. You'll be astonished at what you'll receive in return.